Fellas, should we get to an interview?
Let's do it.
All right, so this is Dee Duncan. I think you'll enjoy.
I want to welcome to the program an old friend of mine. He's now president of the Republican State Leadership Committee, Dee Duncan. Welcome, pal.
Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate having me on the program.
Listen, for those of you who are not familiar with RSLC, let me just read what you got on your website because I feel like you probably say it best, but it's the largest caucus of Republican state leaders in the country and the only national organization whose mission it is to recruit, train, and elect Republicans to multiple down ballot state level offices. There it is.
There it is. Yeah. So state legislatures, lieutenant governors, secretaries of state, ag commissioners, that's our main focus, to get Republicans elected at the state level, kind of be the backstop against out of control Washington.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a whale of a job at it because we have been talking up until the election, the first Tuesday of November. All of our successes basically came in your line of work, right? There were the down ticket stuff we saw popping up around the country with special elections and the like, and they seem to be going pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to last year. Barack Obama, Eric Holder came out and, raised $500 million just to spend on state legislative races. They knew what was at stake with redistricting. So they said their number one priority was to flip everything. Well, they flipped nothing. Even with what happened at the top of the ticket, they flipped nothing. We actually gained a net 2. We flipped both chambers in New Hampshire. And then we start this year. They came out and said, the DLCC said, 500 they spent wasn't enough. 21, 22 were kind of the tone as we go forward. And, they swung and missed. I mean, it's, starting, like you said, in the special elections, our first flip of the cycle was in Connecticut. That was a seat that Biden won by 24 points. And that's a seat, that we won, we flipped. Then you get into Iowa, they went all in on in Ankeny. I know you've spent some time in Iowa at the fair. It's kind of weird seeing you with sleeves on today. But we were there. I mean, that's a seat that if they're going to find a path back in Iowa and, in the Midwest and anywhere, frankly, they've got to flip suburban seats, and so they went all in. I think, $600,000 is what they went in and they missed. And then
we'll share partial credit. The Ruthless Variety program. We'll give it a little bit the RSLC there.
Absolutely. Y'all can have that credit. I think they saw the arms, they saw the gun show, and
that's right. It's intimidating as hell, D. It's intimidating as hell. I mean, I don't have to tell you.
And so then, we get into, fast forward a month, they've got a seat, a rural seat, a member vacates, held that seat 42 years. That's a seat. So they've got to flip the suburban seats and they've got to hold on to their rural seats. They lost. I mean, and that's two, back to back, they lose those. And then we get to election day and, obviously what happened did. And, it just was a bad night for them overall. I mean, Virginia, New Jersey, I mean, they lost, a net 7 seats in New Jersey, 6 in the Assembly, 1 in the Senate. One of those being the Senate president, Steve Sweeney. Yeah. Finished the campaign with $850,000 in his bank account because he just took it for granted. We do Supreme Court races as well. Spend about $1.5 million in Pennsylvania, a state that, Biden won. We win that statewide and then go down to Texas, South Texas, a Democrat held seat. And we win that on election day too. And it's, you add all those things up, they're in for, a world of hurt. I think their biggest takeaway was, they need to be more progressive. The States Project came out, the Friday after the election and said, we're going to convene this big group, but we're going to spend 31 more million to elect, state Democrats as long as they're progressive. And it's like, if that's their takeaway, let's go.
Have at it, Hoss. We got all day for that. Well, you're doing something. You're doing something well. Besides capitalizing on what has now turned out to be a pretty good environment, and it's in the recruitment of candidates. I think this doesn't get enough conversation. Last week we had Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares on the program, and everybody got a chance to hear from them and how great they are. But this is happening up and down ticket where you are recruiting Black, white, Hispanic, women, men. I mean, you've got the person who fits each one of those districts absolutely pinned. And I think you guys are doing a heck of a job at getting them over the finish line.
Well, yeah, it's something that we, have been focused on as the RSLC for a couple of cycles. We know that the only way forward for the party is to have, a diverse set of candidates, candidates, from their communities, who believe in their communities, who speak like their communities, who understand their communities. Because if not, there's no way forward. It's not just, who's the next person up that was the secretary of the, county Republican Party. It's got to be a targeted effort. And so we rolled out the Right Leaders Network, which was focused on that. Had a great rollout there. And, I think, you hit on two of those candidates, Winsome Sears, first, woman of color to be elected statewide in the state of Virginia. Jason Miyares, the first Latino elected statewide in the state of Virginia. And then of our 7 flips, 4 of those 7 were either women or minorities.
Yeah.
You're not hearing about that.
Nobody talks about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. They're all talking about how everybody's racist in Virginia now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Amazing. So, that's a tough square to circle there. Circle to square. I don't know which one it is, but it's an impossible thing to try to explain.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and Winsome, is just such a great candidate. She resonated with the voters, won a primary that, most folks didn't think she would.
Yeah.
And then she comes on and, along with, Glenn and Jason, takes the state by storm, and, the first woman of color, again, that can't be lost. And it's just, they have a problem with minority communities. I mean, if they're not willing to address, crime, education, the economy, they've got bigger problems.
That's right.
And so, we feel good. We did better. I know that, Glenn won the Latino vote. We did really well there. Several of our districts we won, had very high concentration of African-American communities. And that can't be lost. I mean,
yeah, I saw that those districts south of Richmond, I think, is the ones you're referring to, that were, if not plurality African-American, it was certainly a high number where, if you listen to a national media narrative, you wouldn't think Republicans could compete there at all.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible how much of what you all do is focused on the recruitment aspect.
I mean, it's huge. We have to, as we got into Virginia, we put together kind of a 3-pronged plan. You had to find the right candidates. You had to get the candidate that fits the district. But then but it can't be here they are, let them go. So, obviously we're involved in the recruitment side, but we're also involved on the training side heavily. We host, we had a training in Virginia. We're going to do several regional trainings around the country next year. We also, as part of the Right Leaders Network, we had Senator Tim Scott, Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Young Kim, Congresswoman Ashley Henson, all who were former state legislators. And we're going to pair them, with folks that are running across the country, because they were in these same shoes, whether it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. So we want to help them, make sure that they're getting good guidance from people that have actually done it. But then, we're going to, also help on the training side, because, a lot of these people have never run for office, and that's what we need. People who've never run for office. But, then the nuances of, digital fundraising, the day-to-day grind of how to do these things, they have no clue. And so we're going to be there for them, to help train them, and get them across the finish line.
Well, it's really important work, because rarely do you have a Glenn Youngkin situation where somebody shows up for the first time and manages to win a statewide race. Most people, as you suggested, kind of work their way up the rung, and without the kind of proper training, you can be in a big, even if you win, you can adopt all kinds of bad habits that make you unelectable at a higher level. And you guys seems to me, doing a great job at making sure that people have the resources they need to learn along the way.